Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to our penultimate speaker, who is Mr. Paul Morris, who's the head of digital and social media for Co-operative. He's going to talk to us about generating awesome relationships to maximize SEO. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Paul to the Benchmark Conference and bring him up to the stage to have his 20 minutes.
Thanks. Damn, I don't mention mobile once, so I feel a bit left out. Right, so I overuse the word hashtag awesome far too much at work, so I've tried to shoehorn it into a presentation. So for me, it's about, a presentation will be about 15, 20 minutes long, don't mention mobile, and it'll be about generating awesome relationships. And that's across the organization as well with bloggers. Just to first, been in digital 14 years, brought the SEO division into the cooperative group about 8 months ago. There's a small team of SEOs in-house, there's about 4. I've got a team of 23 that covers areas such as UX, social media, one-to-one comms, been client and agency side for about 14 years. In terms of the co-op, you probably all know the food bit, but just to make you aware, 70,000 of us, we've been through a bit of the mill recently. I think you'd have to have been putting yourself under a bit of a stone if you hadn't heard of some of the depressing news about a year ago. We're out of that now and into rebuild. We've got about 2,800 food stores and about 900 and something funeral care. So I'll be talking throughout this about the 5 key areas of our business. So we've got others, but that's around food, legal services, funeral care, electrical, and insurance. So, to begin with, what do I class as a hashtag awesome relationship? Well, for me, it's pretty simple. It's an association between an individual or company for mutual benefit. Now, for me, what's key within that is two things. One is the reciprocity. So, essentially, if you're giving something to them, they're going to give you something back. So it's this, this relationship that you've got there, and then around being connected as well. And again, I'm going to come on to the smiley face shortly, but it's around having a really positive, interconnected relationship with the people that you're networking with or speaking to. Again, I've stolen one of the templates out of PowerPoint, and it's the sort of the hub and the spoke. We've got the SEO team very much at the centre, but what I've tried to change with bringing SEO in-house at the co-op isn't that you've got SEO team, but you've got a lot of other teams that are supporting it, and it's a lot about developing internal relationships as well as external relationships. So the obvious ones are around, bloggers. The obvious thing is creating those with those or with your PR team, but it's who else can you influence within the organisation. I'll come on to that in a bit. So, to kind of penultimate speak of a geeky equation, which is what really this is the focus. I've only got about another 9 slides, so this is a real focus of what I'll be talking about, which is about how at the co-op do we live these relationships and how do we develop them. So I've unashamedly stolen something, so I thought I had to at least name drop them, which is at the bottom right. So there's something which is part of this equation is around something by it's Meister, Green and Galford, which is a trust equation. And for me, that's absolutely key in developing the relationships that we do at the co-op, and I'm sure for you as well. So it's around the credibility. So it's all about how you're going to come across to other people. You've got the reliability angle, really obvious, but can you be relied upon to actually deliver what you've said you're going to deliver? You've got the intimacy. So I'm not asking you to kind of sleep with your PR department or your bloggers, but there is how are you going to get a meaningful relationship with them? I'm not saying that you're going to do this with every blogger. Some you're just going to email, or some you may have the odd phone call with. But with some of your core group, how can you create relationships both externally and internally? Something that again, it's not my work, so I can say it's great. Within part of the trust equation that were developed by these 3 writers was this self-orientation. So, I've been in digital 14 years, but I've been doing SEO for about 10. And if I'm being honest, in previous roles that I've done, the self-orientation, it's been quite a lot about the link I can obtain, or it's been quite a bit about what's in it for me. And I'm stating the obvious now, but it isn't like that anymore. You can't do that anymore. So it's very much focusing on the target, whether that be internal stakeholders or external stakeholders or bloggers. And this self-orientation is the thing that divides all of the top amounts by. So if you've got quite an unhealthy leaning towards self-orientation, i.e. they whiff that all you care about is the link that you're getting and not about them, you're pretty snookered, in my opinion, and what we found at the Co-op, generating any sort of links or relationships with others. And then the final one that I believe that this kind of trust is multiplied by is the emotion. So, I put a smiley face there, so, ideally they're all laughing out loud with the awesome content that you're generating. It's not often the case. But if you can get a bit of a smile, if you can evoke some emotion, and it's not always a smile, it's whether it challenges some of their perceptions, or whether they actually disagree, or they're angry, or with some of the stuff that we do for funeral care, it's quite emotionally charged. So actually with some of that content, then you can spark, quite sort of tearing emotion with some of the content there. But it's creating that emotion that we find that works best when we're doing SEO. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come on and just break down each area of the equation, give you maybe a couple of examples for each one as to how we're doing it, just to show how we're at least making it work client side. And this isn't, we're if you were to check our link profile now, we're not exactly best in class in certain ways, but we're trying to remedy some of the work that, to be frank, that has been done to our domain in previous years with some of the outreach that we as a business are responsible for. So we're trying to unpick some of that, and a lot of that is through the relationships that we're developing. So the first one then is credibility. So, I can trust X because I know that they're credible on that topic, so that they're an expert in that area. So, you've got to make people believe that you know what you're talking about, and, it's being real and showcasing your expertise. Now, the way that we do this at the Co-op from an internal perspective, so one of the sort of the case studies that I've got are through the forums that we run. So this screenshot is taken from the auditorium in the Co-op. It's on the basement floor. It can house about 100 and something people. We regularly invite people from across the organisation. There's quite an angry-looking man there, kind of the sheepish guy on the left that clearly didn't want me taking his photo, but generally they're quite happy to be there. And what we do, we invite about 3,000 people, and out of that it's quite a poor response rate, you'd think. We only have people that accept to come, about 50 to 100 people, and these are people, to be honest, we span the organisation. But the 50 to 100 people that are there are people and decision makers or influencers from across the organisation. So we get people from risk, we get people from finance, we get some of the senior managers and marketeers that are sort of kicking our tires almost. We get some of the exec there as well. So we do these across, again, I'm head of digital, so they're both social media, they're digital media, and they're also specifically SEO. But what we get by this is we find that we build up quite a bit of credibility as a result of them stupidly believing that we know what we're talking about. So we run through some case studies, we try and involve them in that development, and that seems to work really well. I mean, I was in a very boring meeting yesterday with Risk, and even they brought it up. So it's got to kind of work to a degree. So it's kind of sometimes influencing key decision makers, but also influencing the influencers as well, as to that you're on board and that you're doing the right thing for sign off of budget, etc. The second one is more, again, we do more intimate sort of best in class stuff. So we might invite 5 or 10 people to a masterclass internally. And we find that they work really well, again, by sort of talking them through and coaching them through things. So it was a couple of months ago now, we had the marketing team from funeral care, and we were talking to them about SEO, how we needed to develop that, what support we needed from their team. There were about 17 people in the room, and they were fully buying into that in terms of what they needed to do to support it. So we find that the relation bit often starts at home internally, as well as the stuff that you can do with bloggers and journalists. The next one is reliability, and if I'm being honest, this is just so obvious, it's difficult to find an example of doing it, but it's that you'll reliably deliver against the deadlines of what you've said that you've done. So I'm pretty passionate that my team, when we say that we're going to deliver against something, that we always over-deliver. So they've got the very obvious mantra of under-promise and over-deliver. So the deadlines that I negotiate both externally. So if we're producing content for somebody, or if we've arranged a specific relationship for first seeding with somebody of some content or outreach, or whether it be the internal stakeholders that we promise something to, then we always make sure that we deliver. I feel that this is, again, another key area within this trust dynamic, that they know that you'll deliver on what you need to do. Again, the example here was we ran a blogger event. It was a Christmas blogger event, and it was focused on food and electrical. Again, I'll run through some other things that we did shortly, but we had about 30 odd bloggers that turned up to the event. It ran on time. We delivered what they wanted to deliver. We asked them about what they wanted to be included within that session. And we got them, the photo is actually at the top of that, there's a top table whereby we brought some of the bloggers on stage to talk about some of the challenges that they're having with clients such as ours. So again, we felt like we were reliably giving them information amongst themselves, and they found it pretty useful. Again, this isn't the sleeping with your PR department and stuff, but again, sometimes this is probably one of the most difficult areas that I've found in previous roles. So I've headed up search, again, client and agency side, and to be honest, particularly agency side, getting access to some people in this relationship. But it's the intimacy that you can deliver by them. It's more than just asking for a link. It's more than this one way. It's actually that you know them. And that you've developed a true relationship with them. So, simple things at our work, I may be the head of digital, but there are head of digitals across our businesses. So there's a head of digital for electrical and a head of digital for insurance. And even myself, it's simple things such as going out for drinks, for meals, etc. So it's creating that intimate relationship that you've got, and you can trust each other, when sort of times are hard. So on this, we had an event, it was a couple of months ago. And on the back of that, we just thanked them as a result of coming to the event. So it was it was a personal note. But we also just added some, I think these were chocolate coconut flavoured bombs. It was a new product that we'd got coming out of food, and so we just included that in there. And again, they felt it was a personal response specifically to them, and we got a reasonable amount of traction. We didn't ask them to post anything about them, but we found that we were getting reviews from some of, not really the journalists, but certainly from the bloggers that we were engaging. So again, it's that sort of fostering the relationship through that. The next one, and again, the one that I often sort of divides all of that top bit, all of the bits that I previously said, and the one thing that I think a lot of people can come unstuck over is the self-orientation. Again, you're not going to just try and jump into bed with them straight away anymore, like asking for the link stuff, but it's making sure that you focus on the we or the you rather than the I. And that is, again, something that we're really starting to do a lot more with the bloggers and the journalist relationships that we're doing. So we had a Christmas event. It was about start of December, and it was this Christmas event. There was lots of taste sessions. There was cooks. There was chefs. There was showcases of our products, etc. But we just went round the room because, to be honest, we'd asked them. We'd polled opinion before what they wanted, but it was pretty much set really with what we were going to kind of sell to them. So we were going round. We found that from again this 37 bloggers, there was quite a network of people that were interested in baking, interested in cooking. So we specifically focused on what they wanted to see and what they wanted to experience. So we created a relationship with, I think he's called the chap, the larger chap that's in the middle, Louis Triano. I can't cook beans, but he's from Great British Bake Off. I think he was in the finals a year or two ago. So we created this relationship. We invited internal and external stakeholders out, particularly bloggers, into the business. We got them to, it's simple things from baking bread, funnily enough, with our products and with some of our equipment, all the way through to kind of doing the cake stuff. And again, that worked really well from a blogger perspective. So we had, there was probably about 20 bloggers that we did that over 2 sessions. We got 15 decent quality links and write-ups as a result of that. And it was also, again, the evil in me took over, and it was about developing relationships internally. So I made sure that again, through the relationships I've developed, that some of the internal stakeholders that I knew were key to the business units and to budget sign-off, that they get an invite to that as well. So we made sure that when they wanted to be, that they were in the room if they were interested in this product, and they were grateful for that as well. The next one is one that I had with, we had a session, there's a mummy blogger called Jo Middleton. I don't know if you're aware of her, but she's got about 50,000 plus Twitter followers and quite a large following on a blog, etc. And we've created a strategic partnership with her. So she was talking about, she came into one of our sessions and she was, again, it was all about the bloggers. It was about how she'd proven to be successful, you know, a single mum with a couple of teenage kids. She was talking about negotiating with clients like us, so that was quite awkward to be in the room, but sort of expectations when you're from a client about how to negotiate, what to expect, what to accept, how to tell them no to certain demands. So, you know, it was very much orientated around the bloggers, and you know, and they loved that as a result. The final couple is from at least within the emotion bit is, I'm sure that you may know this, so always look on the bright side of life and the life of Brian. We did something for funeral care, and to say that when you give, you know, he kind of thought he was getting the kiss of death, so we earmarked one of the SEO managers as looking after this account, and before he knew the brand, he'd come in specifically to employ him onto this account. He thought it'd be an utter nightmare, you know, funeral care, how the hell do you create link bait and engaging content with death? You know, it's a death product. It's pretty difficult. Well, it isn't actually. So we in this case, you know, we try and play on the emotion. And to be frank, from an emotion perspective, it's easy. You know, for a brand such as funeral care, you're in it every day. So what we did here, they do something every couple of years called the funeral music charts. So we polled, in this case, 20,000 funerals. So they told us, our funeral parlours told us what people had as their last song. So we had a music chart that were associated with this. For about 4 years, it's been static. There's been no movement, so it's been very difficult to sort of get any traction with journalists or with bloggers as a result. Well, this year, Always Look on the Bright Side of Life came storming up the charts to take the #1 spot, which sort of, it was quite fortuitous really. It was quite sort of easy then to create a story on the back of it. But we created, you know, on-page content, infographics, a video. We did the usual PR syndication stuff. We again engaged journalists. We engaged bloggers. You know, and it flew pretty well, really. So we had lots of mentions from, you know, big sites, BBC. We had Telegraph, This Is Money, various American publications. I think, in particular, the international community just thought we were a bit crazy Brits, sort of doing this. What on earth is all this about? So we got, and again, I'd love to say that it was really planned and I got a load of foreign content writers in. I didn't. We just had some foreign writing ability within the team. So we just did simple things like seeding some of that out internationally, you know, to kind of Spanish, Portuguese markets. So it was, you know, we just used the assets that we had in-house. We rewrote some of that content. And again, it went really well from an international perspective, thinking we were crazy. You know, 30,000 shares. And that worked well. And it was, again, something that we did on this, which, you know, most of you, I'm sure, are doing, but, you know, the obvious ones are things like Facebook and Twitter and Google Plus for seeding it. But it was things like LinkedIn, so we started to target some of the journalists through some of the targeting metrics that we've got. So we were actually targeting people that weren't on our kind of our key list. So really the PR department took that off us and spoke to them specifically. But some of the wider journalists, perhaps on some of the smaller publications, we started targeting them. We got a small amount of traction. We didn't get lots, but it proved that it was kind of worthwhile ploughing in. You know, it was only £100, £200 expenditure through some of the targeting on that. So, you know, it's looking at other avenues sometimes, non-obvious ones. So, I told you it'd be quick. It's kind of being awesome with the relationships that you've got. So, you know, the first bit, credibility. So be real, make people believe in you. So I think it's a lot about the, whether it be personal branding or team branding. I'm a big protagonist of that. We took, this certainly isn't for everyone, we took SEO in-house from a digital agency, and they were doing lots of things well. So it wasn't like they were starting from a standing start. So I had to build the credibility up of the team, and whether you're agency or client side, you've got to do the same. Be reliable. So again, the under-promise, over-deliver. We're ones that I'll always fight against deadlines if I don't think they're realistic and if there's no slack in it. So always make sure that you build in a little bit of slack to sort of delight them. The next one is around the intimacy. So again, it's not for every single blogger or journalist or internal protagonist that you may be dealing with, but as best as you can, try and create a personal thread and a relationship with those individuals, and you find that, we found that outreach has really flown in the past few months as a result of adopting this. And the next one is the self-orientation. So, one of the first key events that we did was our Christmas event, and we didn't ask anything from them. So we gave them shitloads of free giveaways. There were lots of competitions. There was free food. We were getting them drunk, and they kept coming up to me asking me, "What do you want?" Well, the evil laughter in me was, "Nothing yet, my dear." But at that point, we didn't ask a thing from them, and we've been able to build up, low hundreds, but we've got hundreds of people, which for us is quite a big database from a blogger perspective. So we've got lots of contacts now that we're willing to talk to, because we didn't just try and flog them hard at the start of the relationship. And then the key one is an emotional response. However you're going to do that, and you know better than I in your markets. Some might be very dry B2B markets, which might be more difficult. But if you can try and elicit an emotional response, then I think that your link bait, etc., will fly. That's it done. Thank you.